guys, and welcome back to the Napkin Notes Podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth Evans. I am coming to you from my living room in Austin, Texas today. If you guys listened to last week's episode, you will know that I was in Nashville, Tennessee last week. I was staying on an Airbnb that also happened to be a functioning working horse farm. I was there doing a couple more interviews for this season of the podcast, and I can't wait for you guys to hear those. Today's episode is equally as special, and we'll get into that in just a second. But last week in Nashville, I was there with my mom, again, doing those interviews, and it's just so much fun being able to travel with family members and create different and new memories. And I do highly suggest, if you can get away with your parents, if you guys have a good relationship, and find some time to take a vacation, I absolutely suggest that. Last fall, just my parents and I, so just the three of us, went and stayed in Montana. I was going for a wedding, and my parents ended up tagging along. And those are memories that we all still talk about. I just think it's unusual to be able to get some time on vacation with parents any longer. And I don't know, those are things I'm just going to hold really near and dear to my heart. Just, I don't know, being able to spend those types of memories with them and be outside of our norm and kind of experience your parents outside of them being parents, but just like experiencing something for the first time was a really unique experience. And so last week in Nashville, we had amazing weather, amazing guests, had some great food. I should really put a roundup of some of my favorite Nashville restaurants for you guys, whether it's a high-end spot or just like your favorite place to get some quick queso. That's probably a good idea. I need to do a Nashville roundup. I've done something kind of similar to that previously, but I think it's worth an update. Today's episode I am so excited about because it is with a gal that I hadn't met before. We recorded in Franklin, Tennessee, but when I walked into her house, that was the first time that we had met. So today's guest is Jennifer, and she is the owner behind the brand Barlow and Browning. If you guys follow along on my Insta, you have probably seen me wearing all of her clothes, even this top today, and jewelry, yes, is from her as well. So that is an online boutique that sells women's clothing. What I really like about Jennifer's brand and the clothing and jewelry and accessories that she provides is they're very soft and feminine. And I would say I'm kind of in my soft and feminine era right now. I was at an event a couple weeks ago, and they asked for like one or two words to describe yourself in this season. And I said assertive yet feminine. And I think sometimes those can come across as mutually exclusive, and I don't think that they have to. And so it was perfect timing for me to stumble upon Jennifer's brand, just because I feel like as I step into kind of a new season of knowing myself, I do think fashion and what you wear is a huge reflection of that too. And so finding her clothing options from that online boutique at this time of my life has been, I don't know, it just feels really timely now that I'm kind of stepping into a more soft and feminine era of clothing. It's just been so nice to be able to pair that with Jennifer's heart behind her brand. Now, this isn't to say I'm hanging up my leather jackets forever. Y'all know I love a good leather jacket moment, but for now, it's just been kind of nice to be a little bit more soft in how I look. But Jennifer, again, is the owner behind that brand. She lives in Franklin, Tennessee. In this episode, you will hear how my path crossed with Jennifer. And it wasn't when I was living in Franklin, and it wasn't when she was living in Austin, which was kind of interesting. We swapped places, but you'll hear about that in the episode as well. You will hear in this episode how a tragedy really in Jennifer's life sparked this new journey for her, which ultimately led her to opening her online boutique in 2020. So I don't want to spoil any of that, but there are a couple things that I want to note as I have reflected back on listening to this really incredibly inspiring episode. And that is something I walk away with after each episode. I feel like I learned obviously something new about the guest, but I learned something new in general that I can apply to my life. And I think there's so much power in being able to put to words an experience that we're walking through. If you are someone that is currently trying to figure out what their thing is, I wonder if this will speak to you, because this is what really spoke to me. Because, in Olivia's episode, we chatted about how she knew she wanted to be a recipe developer and content creator, and I wasn't so sure. And so what I realized from that journey, and you'll hear this in Jennifer's story as well, is I think sometimes opportunities choose you until you get up the courage and confidence to choose your opportunity. And so let me explain kind of what I mean. So when I was starting my business, again, I didn't know what I wanted to set out to be. I just kind of kept taking the right next step. So I would take advantage and take the most out of any opportunity that was presented to me. So really the first step was I had a friend offered me a free ticket to a business conference. I said yes. I had no plans of starting a business at that point in time. Initially, I thought maybe I'll do life coaching. Maybe this will provide some clarity. When I went to that conference was where I heard some people speaking about marketing. It was from there that I cultivated this marketing skill set and then was able to obtain my first client. But really what started the trajectory for me was when a content creator approached me to start a podcast for her. So again, first thing was offered an opportunity to go to this business conference. Second thing was offered the opportunity to help somebody launch a podcast. And so it was like creating my podcast agency felt like something initially that chose me. This podcast, however, is something that I feel like I chose it. And that was where all of these different steps along the way, I think, will help you to find your thing later on. And I think the switch that happens, and my mom said this kind of in passing the other day, and I've really pondered and thought about it. I think you go from being brave, and then you become courageous. And what I mean is, and I don't think that this is like a true fact across all scenarios, but I think when you receive an opportunity and make the most of it, you're brave to take that step. You're brave to see what's in front of you and to go for it. I think it's courageous to choose something and start it and run after it. And that's where I think a lot of times it's so helpful to identify where you are in your journey. If you're looking for purpose or looking for what your unique creative calling might be, I think identifying, am I in the, oh, I see an opportunity, I'm going to go for it. I see an opportunity, an open door, I'm going to walk through it. Or are you at the phase where you're standing in front of what you can create your own door to be and then opening it and walking through it? Because I think things kind of choose you, and all of a sudden a flip switches and then you choose it. And that's where bravery turns into courage. And you'll hear that moment for Jennifer in this conversation as well. But I really wanted to speak with you guys about that right now before we jump in, because whether you are at the very beginning of opportunity number 1, or maybe you're at the end of opportunity number 4 and you're feeling like that itch to start creating something, like you're choosing it, you're not just being a spectator, you're being a participant in your own life, I think identifying where you are gives you hope for where you're going to be going next. So I hope that you hear and see a bit of yourself as I chat with Jennifer in this conversation, because I know I certainly did. So friends, I hope you enjoy. Please fall in love with Jennifer and her story as much as I did. She has such a heart of encouragement, and I can't wait to hear how you experience her journey as well. Here's my conversation with Jennifer from Barlow and Browning. Jennifer, owner of the brand Barlow and Browning.
Yes.
And I have to say, probably the most gifted words of encourager person I have come across in a really long time. Welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you. Yes. I'm so happy to have you here. I feel like I've known you forever just because we have had those conversations on Instagram. So as soon as you walked through the door, I felt like, well, sure, I'm going to give her a big hug because I just...
We are in Franklin, Tennessee right now. We are actually at Jennifer's beautiful home. And so I have my mom mic'd up off camera too, but the way that we even found you in the first place, really we have my mom to thank. My mom saw this coin bracelet in Wayne, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
She has it on today, so we'll have to make sure that we get some photos of it too.
Yes.
And she had to ask them, where did you get it from?
Yes.
Of course, they said Barlow and Browning. She immediately got on your wait list, because I think, is that right?
There is a wait list. Oh, yes. There's always a wait list.
It's just really turned into this really beautiful DM, Instagram friendship and relationship. So my mom started DMing you.
Yes.
Now, my mom is not great with technology.
No, I don't believe that. I think you are.
And so a lot of times she would even say, like, I think I sent a message, but I'm not sure. Or can you just double check that I'm sending these right? So she just started saying, I'm DMing with this girl, Jennifer, and she has this online boutique. You should totally look into it.
Yeah.
And so then you and I found out. I live in Austin. You used to live in Austin.
Yes.
You now live in
For many years.
Franklin.
Yes.
I used to live in Franklin.
Isn't that so funny? Yeah, we did the reverse. We switched.
The Lord
But
knew
I'm
that
trying
we
to
needed
get you
each other.
back to Franklin.
My hat is doing a pretty good job with it too. But what brought you to Franklin initially from Austin?
Well, we initially went to Blackberry Farm to have just some time away, and we realized how beautiful Tennessee was. And so we looked around that area and realized quickly that it's just a little remote for what we were coming from, a hustling, busy city of Austin. So Franklin and Brentwood kept coming up in conversations, and so we thought, well, we'll just go check it out. So it was kind of just on a whim. We just came out and just happened. We looked at 2 homes and fell in love with this one. And so here we are. And I love
It's only been a month.
Yes, it's only been a month.
We are really coming into your story at a very unique time of your life. For moving, some of your furniture still isn't here. And I'm like, Jennifer, can we come over and record?
Of course, in my half-decorated home.
It's beautiful.
Well, thank you. Oh, and then Grayson is at Ole Miss, and so this is a much quicker drive for her to come home and now she's just got a quick 4-hour drive versus 14. Okay. So
that's perfect.
Yes,
because I went to Virginia Tech, and so that was about 3.5 hours from Fredericksburg, where I grew up.
Okay.
So that was an easy drive back and forth.
It makes a big difference.
Get my laundry done once every other month.
Yes, so she got to come home.
Got to come back.
Yes.
That was always our thing. That even now when I got off the plane for Virginia, this 14-long-day trip, there's always Cocoa Krispy treats in the car waiting. Do you guys have something like that? A
special treat? We used to have something called Friday prizes, and so we would. It's something that when they would get in the car on Friday after school, it would be something a baked treat or a little, nothing ever extravagant, but just something just to celebrate the week and just to let them know that I'm proud of them and that they've done a good job. So Friday prizes.
I love that. Was that something that you had growing up, or was that something that you started with your girls?
I just kind of did it on my own, just because I wanted to, just make a quick celebration of.
I love that.
Them.
My Friday prize to myself might be a little glass of champagne.
You see, a little something moment. Like that. Yeah. A guilt-free, it's your Friday prize.
Yes. We work hard. We are hardworking women.
Exactly.
We deserve a Friday prize.
A Friday prize.
Y'all do too. So tell me, how long have you been, or when did you create Barlow and Browning? I guess would be the right way to phrase that.
It was, I'm going to say 2020, and I decided I had been working at a design studio, interior design studio, right after I was divorced because I was needing a source of income. And so I found my friend had a studio, and she needed the extra help. So it was not paying much, but it was enough to get by. And priority to me was making sure I was with the girls when they got home from school, and I was still present as a mom. So I could really, being in design, you could create your own schedule there. So then I had a local boutique ask if I would become their manager. And I said, oh, okay, we'll give that a try. And it was paying more, and it was a steady, consistent instead of on commission with design. This was now a steady, again, it wasn't a lot, but it was enough to get by. So I decided I would try that. And then the owner of the boutique got pregnant, and then she said, I need someone to go to market. Is it something that you'd be interested in? And I said, oh, sure. I did it for design because I did it before with that studio. And so I thought, well, this will be interesting. I'm going to go to Dallas and this time do for clothes. So I've always wanted to do that. And I thought, well, here's my big opportunity. So I just had so much fun learning the ropes and making the connections with the vendors and seeing what was going to be hot and trying to buy the next good thing that I thought would sell well. And things were just going really well at the store, and the things that we were choosing did well. And so then I said, why am I not doing this myself? Because there are certain things that I wanted to tweak or change, but it wasn't mine.
It wasn't your brand. It wasn't your
to change. Yeah. Exactly. So I thought, well, I came up with a business plan and went to an investor and shared with him everything that I had planned. I took an online boutique class, YouTubed a whole lot, Googled a whole lot, and just learned as I went along to see what was going to work and what didn't. So then I decided we would start up our own Barlow and Browning, named after my two grandmothers. And so
I love that.
I wanted it something, just a non-Amazon type of experience where I know we all love Amazon. I mean, I do, but I also wanted that personal connection of being able to get to know my customers, and then being able to give back. There are so many times that I felt like we all go to boutiques, but yet I wanted there to be something that I'm going to give back. And so every month we give a healthy donation to a women's organization helping women and children in need, sometimes pets, because
We love our
we love
pets
our
too,
pets.
yes.
So small organizations that are helping pets are always a good thing.
Yes.
Sancho and George have their own fan club on our.
Okay. These are the dogs that maybe will make an appearance at some point in time, hopefully for us today. So you were a single mom initially, right? When you
Yes.
started down this journey.
Correct.
And so you started with interior design, you said?
I did.
Okay.
Yes.
And so the reason for that was to bring in some income for your family, is that
Correct.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
And just trying to get through with a job that I was able to still be available for the kids whenever they got home, and just being able to have a flexible schedule. And I love being creative, so it was a good outlet for me to be able to be around something that, and then you really get to know your clients well. So it's another good way for communication and connecting personally with people.
Yes.
So
Okay, and then you got this wonderful opportunity to manage a boutique.
yes.
And so that was more clothing.
Yes.
Was that your first time you had really entered into the fashion realm of things for yourself?
I think so, because as far as buying for a store, like I've always been into fashion. There's pictures of me even from elementary school that I've got the Victorian lace collar on and my and the corduroy.
We'll have to pull that
So-
out from
yes.
the archives. We'll show it to you guys on Instagram after this.
There's just like I always seem to be overdressed, and I'm okay with it.
Yes.
So
Yes, I love that.
yes, so my grandmother always taught, very prim and proper, and, how you dress and how you present yourself is very important. So you dress like a lady, you talk like a lady, everything was set in stone early. So I think that's probably where I get that
Comes from. My mom and I were talking right before this as well so my mom used to be an etiquette teacher.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and so
Teach me some things.
oh no! But when we showed up today, Jennifer, you had the most beautiful, you had all the waters prepared and some little bites for us. And it is just nice to have that sort of just Southern feeling when you show up somewhere to feel greeted. And the point of the podcast for me really was inspired by my grandmother, my mom's mom, and her name was Nanny, and she passed a few years ago, but she was sort of a steel magnolia meets everything with grace. And we would go over to her house all the time, and we would hang out by her pool, and it always gave us a reason to gather. And it was never fussy, but it was always, everybody felt so comfortable and welcome, and it was always presented so well.
Exactly.
So it sounds like your grandmother was a little bit the same in that too.
Very much so, because she had that very prim and proper, but yet she had a great sense of humor.
Yes.
And just had a softness about her, but yet a very poised etiquette about her.
Yes.
So, or mannerisms. So, and it was funny, even when she passed as well. When I was in college from ovarian cancer, and her oncologist even spoke at the funeral. So she has a nice way of making those connections and having a sense of humor, even going through tragedy. So she set a good example of being graceful through turmoil situations.
Yes. Graceful through turmoil. I think that's something that is from learned experience. It is from just the way that you were brought up and perspective and outlook, because of course life is going to throw you all kinds of turns and pivots.
Absolutely.
I know have gone through a lot of them personally as well, but how you handle yourself and even how you present yourself during those times and how you carry yourself, that mindset is going to be all the difference.
Absolutely.
My mom went through breast cancer in 2009, and she had this picture that she would hold up of before she had cancer, and she always said, I'm going to get back to that girl after all of my treatments.
I had chills. That's incredible.
So keeping that mindset of who you want to be and how you want to present yourself, it's not frivolous. It is just so much about who you present yourself to be and how you are. And I think that's something that it can be, I don't know, this day and age, a lot of people, don't get me wrong, I'll be the first to go out in my yoga pants, but like I love
Right?
going out still dressed up and presenting as a
Absolutely.
lady and having manners and just looking put together. And so, with the title of the podcast being Notes of Nostalgia, I do think it's kind of pulling from our grandmother's generation
I do
where that was
too.
just their norm.
Right, every day. Like it
Yes.
was, and I expect that out of myself every day. It makes such a huge difference in what I choose to put on in the morning. I feel like it's just as easy to put a dress on as it is throwing on shorts and a t-shirt. You're
That's a
put
good
together
point.
and you feel so good. And when you feel good, I feel like I'm more productive. I feel like fashion and music both are instant mood elevators. And so
Yes.
it's nice just to be able to tap into both of those and
Yes.
see where
I
you can go.
totally agree. And I do think this was a bad habit I had sort of gotten into when I started working remotely all the time, was just not really necessarily putting myself together or getting dressed if I didn't have a meeting that day. Because
Right.
a lot of my work is back end of managing the team or editing,
Sure,
or
at
nobody's ever
home.
going to see me.
Sure.
But then I thought, I just don't feel productive at the end of the day. There's
Right?
no finishing point of changing
Yeah.
from our daytime clothes to our nighttime
Exactly.
clothes.
Yeah. It's like not making your bed and getting into an unmade bed.
Yes, these little things make such
Yes.
a difference for your mindset and like your
It
mental health. So
does.
y'all get dressed out there.
Yeah.
Is really what we're saying.
It makes a difference.
Speaking of how we're dressed, we are both in Barlow. I'm assuming this is
Yes,
Barlow and
it
Browning and
is.
your jewelry.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So I have on, this is the first time I'm wearing this new little
I
white
love
eyelet
it.
dress.
And I love how you did the twist on it. This is what's so great
Thank
about
you.
Great Basics, but elevated, because you've had a Western, vibe to it. And I just wore this to church with heels and a nice neck with pearls. So it's great that I love this twist on it though. You've done a phenomenal job of making it your own.
It's all in the
So,
details. But you have
yes.
such great basics as far as if you just want a simple dress to put on.
Right.
I think your price points are so affordable. You have such a range. I think
Yes.
this was 75.
Right. And I
78
do
maybe.
try to get a good range in there just for everyone to have a little something. And then kind of like my own closet. I feel like I do a lot of high lows. And
Yes.
so it's nice
Yes.
just to be able to pull and make it your own.
What's like a signature high-low moment for you these days?
Oh gosh, I would say that I would have a nice pair of wide leg jeans, which are like run about $70-$80, and then maybe a higher end top, a Finley brand top. So it's going to be a very structured, crisp button down, and then throw in a Louis or Gucci bag with it for the
Perfect.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then,
Elevate it.
maybe some Amazon jewelry or something, I just kind of have a mixed match, but I think that's kind of fun. It's a fun challenge just to make it your own and make it unique. And it doesn't
Yes.
always have to be everything high end.
Yes.
So you can
love a
still
good
make it look
mix and
good
match.
balance.
I do think that Amazon might have come while we've been
Oh,
speaking here, or
of
somebody.
course.
It might have been something else, but the UPS
UPS
guy did come.
delivery.
Yes.
We have more packages to open.
Should we do a try on later for you?
We will.
I would love to talk a little bit more too about how Barlow and Browning was named after both of your grandmothers.
Yes.
So which side is which? Which name is which?
They're both the maternal grandmother side. So I have my mom's mom and then her mom. So it's a great grandmother and then her.
Wow.
So
Okay.
it's like this long line of women from the Barlow Browning group that have just such phenomenal courage and strength. I feel like we all have these stories that we've gone through, but yet you have a strength inside of you that you pull from, and watching what they've gone through and hearing their stories. And I do have a section on our website of women sharing their stories of what they've endured. And it's so nice to be able to have just a source of a sounding board for them, because you would be surprised how many messages I get. I think just because realizing my own story of what I've been through with the accident and there's just a lot of drama with prescription drug misuse and the divorce itself. And then financially trying to come back from all of that was quite a struggle. So it's nice to be able to be a source for those people that are maybe currently going through that or have gone through that, and then just find a connection with them
Do you feel comfortable talking a little bit more about that and what
Oh, of
your family
course.
went through?
Oh, of course. It was, you could probably read more detail on my website, but just to put it, give you an idea of what, I don't want to just shoot in the dark here. I'm sure people are listening and wondering what I'm talking about. But during Hurricane Ike in Houston, we had quite a big hurricane and tornado come through, and we were hunkered down. We stayed home thinking that we'd be safe. My parents evacuated Galveston to stay with us. And around midnight, we had a tree fall in our neighbor's fence, and that man was staying on his own. And my former husband, Tate, wanted to check on him. His name was Jim. Like, let's go check on Jim. So, and at that point, really, there wasn't even, like before, I don't know if you've been through a hurricane before, but it there's some quiet, it's an eerie quietness before all the chaos starts. And so we didn't go, it wasn't even raining when we walked outside, but it was dark. But we went to check on to see if the tree fell on the house or just the fence. And it was just the fence. And so, but the wind picked up pretty quickly. We believe a tornado came through at that time. And so I started running towards the front door to get inside, and I heard Tate behind me, and I was almost to the door, and I heard this big crack, and I knew that crack meant that a tree was going to fall. From living where we live, there were some huge pecan trees and oak trees, and that crack was a huge, I don't know, maybe a 200-year-old tree that came falling down. And when it did, it hit Tate on top of his head and compressed his spine. It left him paralyzed from the waist down. And he did have a crossover experience. I believe he did pass away and was given an opportunity to come back. So that is a whole other story too. It's just a good testimony though to the love that he felt and God's love and just the comfort. And then when he did make the decision to come back, how all of the pain and suffering came back. But he was still with us, and we were so thankful that we had him, and, the girl's dad there. And we had been married for about 10 years when that happened. And so I really thought we were going to be the next Dana and Christopher Reeves. I thought, well, this will, I didn't marry you for your legs. We're going to be able just to set this great example. And, but, I think a lot with pain management and paralysis, I think a lot of doctors not quite sure what to do with it. So I think that it is just a common, let's carry it over with pain management. And then sometimes that gets misused. And then people start making bad choices of how what's going to come next, or how they're going to get the next pill, or your life becomes consumed around prescription drugs, and not always the best use of it. So not using it correctly. So it just became where it was a hard situation for all of us, and an unpredictable situation. So, but I will say that he's come so far. He's able to even talk with his fraternity. He went to UT as well. So he was able to talk with his fraternity, the boys that are currently there, and telling them what can happen with prescription drugs, and to make sure that you are aware of what can go wrong, even just starting with just one pill or two pills, or whatever it is that they're using. So he's told them the loss of his family and home, etc. So he's definitely on the right path now, and we talk, and things are much better. But it was a very dark time in my life, and for all of us. So it's been nice to be able just to give back to women who are going through similar situations financially or emotionally, and see what I can do. And it's an each month thing, and it's always my favorite part of the month to be able just to give back, and know that whenever it's not just about the boutique and about clothes, it's about people and making connections and giving back to whoever it is. I was going to ask you too, because we give back each month, and I'm not familiar with the people or the organizations here in this
Okay.
Franklin or Tennessee area. So I thought, oh, I
Yes.
need to ask you so you can pick our
Oh my
July.
gosh, I would be honored. Thank you. There is a phenomenal organization called In Slavery Tennessee.
Okay.
And so they work with women coming out of sex trafficking.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yes. And
Okay.
so I have sat in on some really incredible events with
Okay,
them.
that's amazing.
And so they help women get off the streets and they
Okay.
give them a skill set.
Well, that is who our donation will go
Oh my
to.
gosh, amazing.
Yes.
And then there is another one off of Charlotte Avenue out on West End as well that
Okay.
they actually have a storefront and some coffee shops.
Okay.
The name is eluding me.
Well, yeah, I mean, that'll be for August.
Yes, but if you needed to go in
Yes.
to even like get coffee, or they have little hand lotions, it's an amazing spot. I think that you would love working out of too.
Okay.
But all of the women there are also coming out of sex trafficking or prostitution,
Okay.
and then they give them the skill set too. So I'll have to
fantastic.
give you their information as well in case you need to go over there.
Yes, I would love that.
Jennifer, thank you for telling me that story. I know that sure it's not easy necessarily to go back through, but
Sure.
so impactful.
Well, I appreciate you listening. I was going to say, I think during times like that, if you can hang on to your faith, I know people have asked like how, I don't know how you're doing this, because every time I see you, you seem to just be smiling and gracious. And I think, well, clearly only by God. I mean, I kept doing it, Philippians 4:13 over and over. Like, I can do all things. I just kept telling myself, I've been given everything I need to keep moving, and my whole purpose is to be sharing my light and being a light for others, and just moving forward in my journey. So, and not to say that I didn't have sad days. There was definitely time crying in the shower, crying in my car, but you let yourself go through those emotions, but then, I mean, life goes on and you've got to pick yourself up. I mean, I think it's easy to get stuck in a victim mentality or uh, being isolated. But if you can find that courage and the strength from God that He gives you, it's just such a motivation to know that you can just keep moving forward and sharing your light. I know my mom shares this story. She says, when the day I was born, it was this dark, cloudy day, a morning on December 30th. And she said, the minute you were born, all of a sudden this big sunbeam and bright light came through the window and went all over you. And it was like all streaming through the room. And so she loves telling that story.
Yes,
so it's just like sharing your light.
I'll have to give your mom a segment on the podcast too. We'll get her on as well.
She would love that.
Yes, I was going to even ask you like how you got through that, or some mantras or scriptures, and you already just answered that so beautifully. Philippians 4:13 sounds like it was really important to you.
Absolutely, yes.
Feeling the emotions, but not staying there.
Exactly.
I didn't go through a loss of someone, but I did end an engagement a handful of years ago. And for whatever reason, my car was where I cried.
Right?
I would just go in my car and I would just start crying. And I don't know why that was the spot. I would just drive and cry.
Yes.
It was some of those back roads behind the urban market, which everybody knows I talk about all the time. But I would just go through these hilly roads and just cry and listen to music.
See, and music again. Yeah.
You know what? Maybe this is what it was for me, was because once I left the car, it was almost like I left some of those emotions there too.
That's a good
Went
way
in
to
the
put
car,
it.
felt them, but there was a transition. So by the time I got out, I would get myself together.
I bet that that's it. The car, because it was a shower for me too, and the car, and then sometimes just being alone in bed. But the important part was like just not to get stuck and wallow and just, I mean, of course, let yourself feel it, but that's important. But just knowing that you've got a bigger purpose than just sitting
reminding
in depression.
Yes. Did you have any close friends during that time that were really helpful for you, or something that they did that really helped pull you out of that?
I did. Charlotte Hall, she's my best friend. We used to teach teacher friends, and she found me because all the communication was down because of the hurricane. And so she was calling all the hospitals trying to find where I went, because I called her. Cell phones were still working, and she was my first call after the 911, obviously. And I called Charlotte and I told her what happened. And it's like, I wasn't crying yet. I was very like, this is what has happened, and this is our plan, and we're just waiting for the ambulance. And so she couldn't find me, but there she showed up. I was in ICU at Memorial Hermann, and the ICU, they only let you go in 20 minutes out of the hour, the last 20 minutes. And so the other times I would just lie down on these makeshift bed that I had made on the chairs. And so I remember about the third day in, she found me, and the elevator doors open, and there she was. She walked out, and I was just so relieved to have her there. And of course, she had a little prize, kind of like the Friday prize.
Yes. Friday prize,
a little prize, like a little shawl to keep me warm. But she was just so sweet. She said, fake it till you make it. We'll get through it. And we went trying to get through some churches, and everything was just closed. It was during the hurricane time. Everything was flooded. It was a mess. So we just had our own little prayer time together. And she was a very wonderful, comforting source. She still is. So, yeah.
Are you familiar with the name Catherine Wolfe at all?
I am.
Okay, so she was is a stroke survivor. And so she had it was pretty much a catastrophic stroke, and by some miracle continued to live.
Yes, I saw she came to Life Austin.
She did, yes. So fun fact, Jennifer goes to the church that I have so many friends in and worked with the pastor there. So again,
and we've donated to Catherine's organization too.
Hope Heals.
Yes.
She's so wonderful. I've helped produce some podcasts that she's been a guest on. And so right after her stroke, right even before I think the ambulance got there, the last words to her husband before she didn't remember anything for like 90 days was, it might have even, her friend might have also been named Charlotte, but she was like, call so-and-so to take care of the kids.
Oh, see.
And she was like, even in my almost last moments, I'm taking care of other people.
It's so
she was
true.
like, that's typical Catherine style. And so I was like, moms are just also so resilient. Like, you knew what to do, and you get to the hospital, and your friend knew to find you. And there's just a resiliency in you as well. And so something that, again, because you were kind of my mom's friend first, and then I went into the situation, and my sister is now trying to get into the situation too.
I love it.
I do have another sister, Allison. She said, tell Jennifer that there is there's a sister. So there are two of us. But my mom and I were saying that you have such a soft demeanor about you, but you've made a lot of hard decisions along the way.
Sure.
Are there certain things that you've done to maintain a soft heart, even with hard boundaries?
I feel like I go back to that, just very Christ-driven, and my motivation, and knowing just to keep sharing my light. And I like being a source of comfort for other people. Like I'm one of those that people tell me just kind of crazy stories too, like at the checkout. Like there was recently I was at Michael's, and this lady tells me that her roommate, she didn't want him living there anymore. So she started putting stuff in his drinks, or started somewhat poisoning him. And I've never met this lady before. I don't know what to even, and I never want to act like, appalled. So I'm just like, well,
oh no.
I'm just one of those that people, it's the opposite. Like people are telling me their stories. So I just still want to have a soft demeanor where people do feel comfortable sharing their stories. And I just like being a source of joy for them. Life is just so much easier living that way. I mean, not like I have my head in the sand, but yet at the same time, it's just nice to you have a choice every morning when you get up, and just choosing that light and to be a source of comfort for other people is just a more fulfilling way to live.
I love that we have a choice every morning, who we want to show up as, and the choices that we're going to make, and how we're going to interact with people. I love that. My mom's kind of the same way too. People just sort of tell her stuff. Yeah. We were just laughing. We went to Wrightsville Beach, and we were on vacation in North Carolina, and we walked into this one place, and I didn't realize it, but my mom and I both had on, we realized it when we went out of the house, but didn't realize it on our second stop that we still had on our Bestie sweatshirts.
Oh, yeah.
So they're the exact same, and they both say Bestie on it. So we were walking in this one place, and the guy greeted us kind of funny. And so later on, he was like, I'm so sorry. I actually thought you guys were vendors because you had on the same sweatshirts.
Yes, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, he was like, so I was acting weird. That's why. Okay. And I was like, oh, yeah, it's okay. I understand that. And my mom goes, yeah, you were acting weird. Oh.
And like, yeah, you kind of were.
So that these people will tell my mom something, but she is very kind of unfiltered, but in a very approachable kind of way.
Right.
And he was from New York, and I think he loved it, and they just kind of like hit it off. And I was just kind of laughing that my mom never really meets a stranger, even after she calls them weird.
Right? You still make a connection. See? Yeah, it's all about making those connections.
We were just kind of cracking up. But even this morning before we came here, we ordered some food from McGavick's because we're staying at the Harpeth Hotel. But even the woman behind, she was one of the baristas back there, and she was like, you two are just so well dressed. You're two of the most beautiful ladies I've seen. And I just thought that really is, like, even when we dress nice, obviously for ourselves to go out the door, other people, it kind of brightens their day, I think,
I agree too. Yeah, and gives them inspiration, or they're like, oh, I'm going to go home and wear something like that I like, or helps them feel better about themselves. Yeah, I do really feel like fashion makes such a difference in how you're feeling that day. So
it kind of gives other people to be bold too in their dress, because like obviously I have on a big necklace today,
I
and
love it.
And then couldn't
so
leave Nashville
beautiful.
without some of the Casey boots.
Course.
If you can see them,
the best.
But I think it does give other people permission to be bold, or give people permission to choose joy in the morning, and just sharing these stories, I think, gives people just that permission.
I agree.
And another option in their mind when you feel stuck and you think that you don't have options. Having some kind of mindset to focus back on the Lord and know that today you have a choice in yourself and with Him to just put on, even if like being vertical and putting on a dress is the best that you can do that day. Yeah. That's your level of bravery. That's your definition of bravery today. And it might look different tomorrow. Maybe it's a little bit bigger tomorrow.
Yes. Yeah. I love how you put that. Yeah. That was perfectly said.
Thank you. Well, it's really
like you've done this before.
Back to you. Oh my goodness. So owning Barlow and Browning now, I might know the answer to this because we talked about your grandmothers a little bit, but was there someone growing up that was really influential in your life that if they weren't around, like you wouldn't be the owner of Barlow and Browning today?
Right. I would definitely just put it back on my grandma Browning, and she was one that was always so prim and proper. You dress like a lady, you act like a lady, you eat like a lady. Again, everything, her home was beautiful. Everything had its place. So
what did it look like?
Oh gosh, she had a one-story, it's a ranch style home, but everything in it.
We love a one-story home with like the bedroom on the first floor.
Yes. She just, everything, this is back in the 70s in my head that I'm thinking of this, because I spent summers there.
Oh,
so
lovely.
It was so fun. And I was an only child, and the only grandchild for years.
Wow, so that's so special.
Yes.
They just loved you to pieces, I'm sure.
Well, she was very, like your hair appointment was this time, and her golf lesson was at this time, and everything was, I was to make sure that I was dressed well and she was dressed well. But yet she had a great, anytime we'd go see the hairdresser, Van was his name. He had his partner, and those two were just such a crack up. Hilarious. That she was very personal as well, and she had a great variety of friends, and she just had a great sense of humor to her, but yet always a very poised and postured. And then the opposite, my other grandmother lived down the street from her in Carmel, Indiana. Now that grandmother was the opposite. She, anything goes. Like, I'm going to take you to go get candy, and you're going to I get to wear her those little chiffon nightgowns of hers. I would put those on, and we'd get in her big old white Cadillac, and we'd go through the drive-through of Dairy Queen in our nightgowns.
Dairy Queen drive-through.
In your nightgown. So it was two completely different vibes, but what stuck with me, and probably a good thing, is knowing how to dress yourself and present yourself, and but having that softness too. Yes. So
I love both of those things.
Yes.
Nanny probably leans towards your first grandmother that you were speaking about. And I was telling Mallory was another guest on the show this season, but Nanny always had very much the grand millennial look with the, what were the pillows that but then also the knit ones. Yes.
Oh, the needlepoint. Yes.
Very much
exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what they call it now. Back then, that was just the thing. Yeah.
That's right. But then she did have the down pillows on the sofa, and so while she was very prim and proper, my sister and I, it was mostly our boy cousins, because they were about the same age. Whenever we would go over to Nanny and Poppy's house, the first thing we did, just to kind of like tease Nanny a little bit, was jump on the downs pillows on the sofa and just kind of flatten up. She'd go behind us and we'd have to
Of course,
put it
you
back
do the
together.
chop, yeah.
Yes. With the wallpaper and the whites and the blues.
Yes.
And I
bet it was beautiful.
Yes.
Oh, 12,
Thank you. This is
I bet it was gorgeous.
Producer mom over
Yeah.
there. Yes. And it all is still just like that. So Poppy still lives in that house. So it is just so reminiscent to go back there, and all the memories are still there. Yes. And like I said, she had the pool over there. So it was just, it gave us a reason and a place and a time to gather.
Exactly.
So we could all just go over and either swim, or she would bring out little cucumber sandwiches and other dips. So 2 things I'm really bad at that for some reason keep coming up this week are floral arranging and swimming. I just floated all summer.
I'm not a good swimmer either.
Jennifer gets it. Really
I like looking at water. I just don't want to be in it.
I can be around it. I can even do a water sport. I can do wakeboarding, and I can do like wake surfing.
Now see,
but if you need me to swim,
forget it.
I was in swim team. I guess it was 4th grade, or was that? Oh, I was young. Okay, this makes me feel a little bit better.
That's good.
But for some reason, I was doing backstroke, but I only used one.
So you were just going in a circle?
She was doing freestyle with one arm.
So you're right, though. I did keep going in circles. But this was after I got really scared and wouldn't jump off the block. So they had to stop the whole swim meet.
No way.
Because I was crying. Arranging and swimming are not skill sets of mine.
That's okay. You have so many others that are above and beyond. So stellar.
We keep those kind of
yeah.
I still try the flowers.
Yeah.
I try. We just outsource that now. Trader Joe's has great flowers, but if you can't arrange them, it's,
Yeah.
So sometimes I just put like the 1 or 2s like in the bathroom and stuff. And I'm like, we're going to call that a day.
That works.
But Nettie was kind of like that, very prim and proper, but had that quick wit about her. And,
it's the best.
Those are the
generation in themselves,
Yes.
I think, have such great values that I'm hoping we all keep carrying down. I think it's kind of dwindling, but I'm trying to keep that alive in my girls as well. And instill the important parts of just presenting yourself well and being a good listener for other people.
That's a great thing. I think that is something that is sort of a lost art.
Yes.
Is the listening.
Right.
Even if it's the Michael's cashier telling you that they're poisoning the roommate, we can be good listeners, but
I don't know who she was. I just, people just, that's just one example. People tell you, and then, you never act over appalled. You just,
That's something I need to work
do.
on, and I didn't realize that I'm very expressive in my face, so I'm going to need Botox at some point in time. But I do think I have kind of like strong facial reactions, and I didn't realize it. But sometimes I'll like see somebody like looking at me as I'm talking to them, and I'm like, oh, what did my facial expression
what
just
did I
show?
just do?
Yeah, that they're like, what is her reaction right now? Or even if I'm just thinking about, like, you will know what I'm feeling at all times.
Yes.
Because my facial expression will tell you a mile away. So that's probably something that I can also work on too. Is not
too. So it's a good balance, I'm sure.
Oh my gosh. So what are some, I like to do a little element or a segment of like things that make the guest them. What are some signature Jennifer things? One, I would almost say your hosting skills. Like that was just so memorable when we walked in.
Oh, you're so sweet to say so. I do feel like that's very important, just making people feel at home. Presentation, I feel like, is everything. So if I'm giving you a gift or if you're coming over, I want to make sure that your snacks are presented well and everything from the water to whatever it is, the plates. That's important to me. And I would say go back to being a good listener. That's a Jenniferism. I just feel like I'm always coming home telling people or my family, this is what someone told me today. They're like, why do these people tell you this? I'm like, I don't know. It just does. It just happens.
They just trust me.
And I think probably always being overdressed. That's just kind of what I do. And again, I'm totally okay with it. I would much rather be overdressed, and that's just, you just be you and do your own style. And if it's an elevated style, then stick with it. If whatever is going to make you feel best to go out your day and make it a productive day and bring joy.
I love that. And I'll ask you just a couple more questions, maybe a little bit more about your brand, but specifically when you got started back in 2020, were you scared or nervous to start? What was that like?
I was, but at the same time, I'm very much of the idea of, well, at least now you know, like, try it. And if you don't like it, my grandma always told me have a backup plan. So I had a backup plan. So I thought, hey, let's try this for a certain amount of time. If it does well, it does well, great. And if it doesn't, then we'll go back to the backup plan. So it's I just prayed about it a lot, and I just kept feeling like it was the right thing to do. And I feel like it was so important to do something every day towards that goal. I think it's easy just like you start something that seems so daunting, like starting your own store and all the steps that really are involved in that. And, but if you do a little bit of something every day and it starts lining up and you start getting all of your products ready and your website ready, and it just all sort of comes together. But no, there are definitely days where I'm like, what did I sign up for? I can't believe this. But then the next day you wake up and you have all these orders and you're like, oh, okay,
Right.
it worked.
That is the entrepreneurial roller coaster.
Yes, it's definitely a lot of ups and downs. So I definitely have had days where I'm like, am I doing the right thing? Like, show me a sign, God. And then like I'll have a really big day the next day. I'm like, okay, so I need to keep doing this. And
Still on the right path.
yes.
Yeah.
And it does feel so good to give back. That's like my one thing that I keep feeling like it's great to do well, but it's even better to share and have a bigger purpose.
I love the mindset of, well, I might as well find out.
Yeah.
Because I think there are a lot of people that might have an idea and they are too scared to start, or they don't take that step towards that goal. And I think they just sort of get in their own way.
Yeah,
and they start
I agree
overthinking
too.
it.
Yeah.
And they talk themselves out of it. But
Yes.
if you do have the mindset, and some questions I've been asking myself recently, even with this podcast, is what if this were easy?
Right.
What if it were fun?
Right.
Rather than that long list or that daunting thought that's like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a lot. We have to do this. We have to go to Nashville. I've got to set everything up. What if it was easy?
Right.
What if it was fun? Why don't I just find out?
Yes.
To kind of have that mindset, I think, is so helpful when starting something versus focusing on all the things that maybe you're not good at, or the gaps that you're going to have to fill, or the things that you're going to have to learn.
Absolutely.
Just go ahead and find out.
And then now you know, like, if you don't want to do it, then you pick something else. Like, there's always a long list of things, especially for you, it seems like, of things that you are accomplished to do. Like, you are so skill oriented on so many things. Talking with you earlier about all of your amazing accolades, I'm like,
it's nice to have my mom around, because these are things that I would just never really bring up. But walk into a room with your mom and she'll brag on you.
Oh, heck yeah, every time.
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. You mentioned that your grandmothers along the way, and I would love to know, is there anything that they said to you growing up that you still kind of hold with you today that's really memorable?
I would definitely go back to the have a backup plan. She drilled that into my head because she was such an independent lady. She was married and had this family, but she always thought women should have an independent streak to them. So, don't be relying on the people around. Like, you get yourself through it and you pull yourself up. And so that's definitely given me courage, and just seeing her story, as well as my aunts, and they're just all the women in our family, I feel like, have done such a beautiful job of being a good role model, of showing strength and courage through adversity. So
I love that. Have a backup plan.
Yes.
Take agency over your own life.
Yes.
And go ahead and find out, and then you'll know. Jennifer, thank you so much. Where can everybody find you after they listen to this?
We are at barlowandbrowning.com, BARLOW, and the word and Browning, BROWNING. That is a mouthful, but I just wanted to make sure that I gave credit to my grandmothers, because it's where I am, or why I am where I am. So it's been a blessing.
Well, I just love that. Be sure to check out Instagram and YouTube if you're watching this or just listening to this, because we'll have to make sure that we get your shoes in on all of the visuals as well, because that really makes it as well. So be sure to check out Jennifer's outfit,
a little sparkly,
as well over there. So Jennifer, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you. Such a pleasure.